Ceremony. Hold, done. Here we go. I said this.
Mr. Modi, who is in Austria, the first Indian PM to visit Austria in 41 years. And those visuals coming in. This is the first Indian visit by Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years, and during his stay in Vienna, PM Modi will call on the Austrian President, hold talks with the Chancellor. Both leaders will also discuss issues of geopolitical challenges. They will explore ways to further deepen their relationship and have a closer cooperation on various geopolitical challenges. viewers, so we saw that PM Modi has received a rousing welcome. These are live visuals coming in from Vienna, Austria. Kickstarting his Austrian visit, the Prime Minister has a very, very busy schedule ahead. He will be interacting with the members of the Indian community in Vienna. He also will be meeting and addressing business leaders from India and Austria. Both Austria and India will explore ways to deepen their relationship and build closer cooperation on various geopolitical challenges. Remember that ahead of his visit to Austria, PM Modi said that the shared values of democracy, freedom and rule of law are the bedrock upon which the two countries will build an ever closer partnership. We are seeing that the Foreign Secretary had also said that Austria is a very important Central European country. It's a very important country when it comes to opportunities for bilateral cooperation in infrastructure, renewable energy, high technology areas, startup sectors, media and entertainment. The Prime Minister has received a rousing ceremonial welcome as this marks a very big and landmark visit, because this is the first visit by Indian Prime Minister in 40 plus years. So definitely marking a very important chapter. Let's go straight across to Shravan Sen, our senior editor, joining us on the phone line. Shravan, we will see it's going to be a very important visit and a lot on the agenda later on in the day.
It's a significant visit of the Prime Minister to Austria, and this comes just after his successful trip to Moscow. The reason being, one, remember, as far as Austria is concerned, it's also a non-NATO nation, and many would essentially see the role of Austria as a mediating country in the Russia-Ukraine war. Many, as far as the agenda of the Prime Minister goes, remember, it's Prime Minister happened the first Indian Prime Minister in 40 years to visit Austria. He's going to be in Vienna for a couple of hours, and in fact, the discussion largely revolving around the fact that as far as global south is concerned, it is imperative that at some level peace is diffusing the current situation in Russia and Ukraine, and that is the reason why I remember that remains a major focus, with the Prime Minister already laying the foundation of the talks that took place in Moscow by indicating, one, that this is not an era of war. Secondly, several nations will have to come together to ensure that dialogue takes place between Russia and Ukraine. In fact, this is something that has also been acknowledged by the Russians, with President Putin indicating that this is going to be perhaps the fact that the efforts that have been made by the Prime Minister, he's taking cognizance of it and he appreciates India's role in it. Now, how is that connected to Austria? Remember, this comes at a time when there have been multiple efforts to bring in Austria to fold. But having said that, with the neutral position that Austria has taken, it only goes on to indicate that the Prime Minister largely trying to bring together nations who could actually play a pivotal role in diffusing the current situation in the Russia-Ukraine war.
Shravan Sen is getting us top updates from those visuals which you see where PM Modi has kickstarted his Austrian visit. And Shravan, coming back to you, we had a very successful visit of the Prime Minister in Russia, where, and as you were mentioning, that the Prime Minister Modi has called for, reconciliation or maybe the ending the Russia-Ukraine war. What can we expect on that front when he comes to Austria? You were mentioning that that could be one of the important points that he might discuss with the Austrian leaders.
Well, in fact, this would certainly figure as part of the engagement that the Prime Minister is going to have with his counterpart in Austria. But you will have to look at this in the backdrop of the talks that have taken place in Moscow, and the very fact that you've had the Indian Minister basically choosing the Austrian visit immediately after his visit. There is a clear link that basically emerged, particularly keeping in mind that the Prime Minister has played an important role in sending across a very strong message that India today basically stands for peace and is certainly hoping that peace prevails because that is going to be beneficial for global South. While the Prime Minister has always advocated the fact that whatever he's essentially doing is for the people of India, but at the same time also indicating that today, when the world witnesses in the form of Russia-Ukraine war and Hamas war, India has basically bringing in the much-needed peace. That is the reason why even President Putin has acknowledged the efforts that have been made by India in trying to bring both the nations on the same table. While Ukraine has basically lambasted the Russians and also calling the Prime Minister Modi's visit as a disappointment. But having said that, remember, for the West, it is extremely India to in cobbling together, many would say, an axis that basically has been formed with China and India coming together. They're hoping that they will go beyond this bloc mentality. Can only be demolished if at all the West basically understands that they perhaps cannot really pursue what they have been really looking at, and Russia is a reality that they will have to come to terms with. This also comes at a time when you have the NATO summit, which is basically underway in Washington, D.C., particularly with the regime that has taken place. Labour Prime Minister coming in case with the UK Prime Minister also being part of the NATO summit, and the uncertainty that one basically looks at right now in US with regards to the US election. So all that put together, remember the situation being extremely unpredictable, NATO under a lot of stress, keeping in mind that if at all there is a change in regime in the United States of America with President Trump coming back, it would basically mean a shift of balance. And more importantly, this really then shifting would actually cause much more Ukrainians as well as those who have basically been advocating that Ukraine continues with the fight against Russia, because so far, remember, many have already advocated, particularly in the United States of America, that this war cannot continue. A resolution is imperative. So keeping all of that in mind, the Prime Minister plays a very important role today with his visit in Vienna, and this comes after almost 41 years. The fact that the Prime Minister has also chosen to go immediately after his Russia visit is a clear indication of what India basically is aiming at this point in time.
Right. Well, thank you, Shravan, for joining us with all those details. Prime Minister receiving a rousing ceremonial welcome in Austria, and we can expect bilateral talks. And he will also be addressing the Indian community in Austria and addressing business leaders from India and Austria.